When I think back on my high school experience, I have fond memories of dances and football games, but I also have painful memories of boring afternoons spent struggling to conjugate irregular verbs in my Spanish class. I think that most people would agree that it is harder to learn a foreign language the older that you get. Many people wish that they could have been able to become bilingual as a young child. In today's elementary schools, there are several programs currently offered that teach foreign languages to young children. One popular option is the two-way immersion program. In a two-way immersion classroom, half of the curriculum is taught in English, while the other half is taught in another language. The classroom is made up of 50% English speakers and 50% native speakers of the other language, usually Spanish. Two-way immersion programs are beneficial to schools for several reasons. In this presentation, I am going to show you how the two-way immersion programs can effectively teach English to Spanish speakers, teach Spanish to English speakers, and also help the students perform well academically. Two-way immersion is an effective way to teach English to children who are entering school as Spanish speakers. In her article, A View from the Classroom, Jill Wu said that one reason that two-way immersion is preferable is that it allows non-English speakers to learn to read in Spanish, instead of only learning to read in English as in traditional full immersion. Children can be taught to sound out words in a foreign language, but that does not necessarily ensure that they have high levels of comprehension. And without good comprehension, their grades will be poor in all their academic subjects. Two-way immersion allows them to develop reading skills in their own language. Wu also said that there is evidence that after learning to read in their primary language, children will become more successful at learning to read in a second language. Wu taught at several schools that had different approaches to bilingual education. She describes these experiences in her article, A View from the Classroom. She worked with 4th and 5th grade students who had not been given the opportunity to learn to read in Spanish first. They struggled with comprehension in English and read at far below their grade level. Alternately, when she was able to teach in a two-way immersion program, she found that the students benefited from being allowed to learn to read in Spanish. After gaining Spanish reading skills, they became more confident and they were more willing to try to learn to speak English. They then made great strides in becoming bilingual, and then their English reading scores were high. Wu came to the conclusion that two-way immersion was preferable because children need to be allowed to learn to read in their native language. She said, "My experience suggests that students acquire a second language most easily when they develop literacy skills and content knowledge in their native language, have opportunities to interact with English-speaking peers, and learn with students of different ability levels. We need to remember that the fastest way is not necessarily the most effective way." Two-way immersion effectively teaches English to Spanish-speaking children. In their article, Parental Motivation, Attitudes, and Support in a Southern California two-way immersion program, Giacchino, Baker, and Pillar said, a study of kindergarten through 4th grade students in Texan TWI programs found 85% of native Spanish speakers to be proficient in English by the end of the 4th grade. Two-way immersion is also a great way to teach Spanish to English-speaking children. Most bilingual programs are aimed towards the important goal of ensuring that all of our students speak English. However, two-way immersion has the added benefit of affording our English-speaking students a chance to learn Spanish. This will be beneficial to those students as our country sees higher and higher rates of Spanish speakers. This pie chart was created using information taken from an article written by Catherine J. Lindholm-Leary called The Rich Promise of Two-Way Immersion. She presented information about what the United States population will be like in the year 2050. As you can see, the amount of Latinos living in the United States is estimated to increase substantially. They are expected to represent about 24% of the general population of the United States. Asians are expected to comprise at least 10% of the population. As you can see from this pie chart, the population of people who do not speak English in the States is going to be increasing. The percentage of Spanish speakers will be especially high. Programs that teach our students to speak Spanish will become more and more important. Two-way immersion is a great way for children to become proficient at Spanish. Traditional foreign language classes are usually only offered once or twice a week. Two-way offers far more instruction time than traditional Spanish class. Half of all instructional time is done in Spanish, and students spend every day with their native Spanish speakers. Two-way is capable of producing students with much less of an accent than other foreign language programs are able to do. In her article, A Cure for Monolingualism, Miriam Met asserts that for students who already speak English, no program of foreign language instruction in a school setting surpasses immersion for the level of language proficiency attained. Children in two-way immersion classes also tend to do well academically. Met also says that research shows that children who are helped academically by learning another language, especially when they study it in their early years. In her article, Foreign Language Study in Elementary Schools, Janice Stewart says that learning another language can boost a student's reading skills in their own language. A second language forces them to think about such things as grammar and sentence structure, and students start to recognize those kind of patterns in their own language. Giacchino, Baker, and Pillar also reported on the findings of a study which showed that two-way immersion programs are the only programs to date that assist all participating students to reach the 50th percentile or higher in both their native language and a second language in all subjects, and maintain that level of high achievement through the end of schooling. Implemented correctly, two-way immersion is a quality program that is beneficial to elementary schools. Two-way immersion teaches English to Spanish speakers, teaches Spanish to English speakers, and also helps students perform well academically. Parents are recognizing the need for foreign language instruction in elementary schools, and two-way immersion is an effective way to meet this parental demand. As more programs are implemented in elementary schools, the United States will be able to become more competitive with the rest of the world in producing bilingual students. Are there any questions?
When a school offers two-way immersion, will enrollment in the program be mandatory?
No, it will not be mandatory. Schools that offer two-way immersion usually offer it as an alternate program that parents can voluntarily enroll their children in. And in fact, it is usually so popular that there's usually a waiting list or a lottery in order to enroll your child. Any other questions?
Is two-way immersion only offered in Spanish?
No, while Spanish is the most popular choice, there are a lot of schools that offer two-way immersion in other languages.